Welcome back to Enigmatica 2 Expert Extended Edition. So today's topic is going to be Xnet and IC2 early game automation, mainly ore processing, and then playing with some power. The power is mostly straightforward. We have immersive engineering windmills generating RF power that goes to this battery up there, and then Xnet pulls it and will disperse it wherever the cables go. So the cables go underground to here. And it puts that power in this battery. And then these really cool connectors from industrial wires will go to the relay. And these are all tin. I guess we call them tier 1 IC2 power. Goes to the relay and then it disperses it to all these machines. And of course, if I try to time in the bottle these machines when they're running, we'll run out of power. There'll be bottlenecks that way. But for early game, when I'm just underground mining, and I have this system automatically processing my ores, the majority of this video is going to be me building this thing, kind of working through some issues. I figure it makes sense to start the video off with kind of a demonstration as to what's going to happen here. So toss down one of these ores, iron, copper, and aluminum. Taking a quick look at the item IDs, notice how this guy is a 0015, 5060, and 5060. That's the important bit. So that's metadata, 5060/0. This is /4. So working with Xnet, you have to pay attention to metadata, and it can be a little confusing when it comes to something later, like crushed, because 4159, and then you see the metadata increasing, but then you get to some of these other ores that are from a different mod, the JAOPCA, whatever the heck that is. It's got all different types of actual item, I don't know what you call it, data. It doesn't have metadata. Each type has its own number ID, versus these few are all sharing the same metadata, indicated by that slash. Anyways, that'll be important for later with Xnet filtering. But for now, looking at these two pickaxes here, this is kind of my main guy now. It's got a bunch of redstone on it, so it's got the Aster? How the heck do you pronounce that? It's fast anyways. It's got redstone. This guy, if you remember from an earlier episode, has alumite. An alumite binder on it, which gives you the global traveler trait. So it's actually linked with a crate. We shift, right click, we will reset that, but it's set to this crate, which of course is configured through the controller to do various things. And this may look a little intimidating at first if you've never played with Xnet, but I'll be going over it more in depth later in the video. But it's important to note, when I was building this thing, I had a few glitches, so the very end of the video is probably not the right place to find working settings. I'll be discussing those kind of more towards the middle part of the video, I guess. I'll make a chapter. How about that? Anyways, that crate is conditioned to, if there's ores of certain types, dump them into this storage crate or this storage crate, which is these two macerators. I haven't set anything else up yet. And of course, items are getting pushed in at the pulling upgrade, sucked into this, and then it's getting outputted back to over there. Enough talking, show an example. Boom, boom, boom. We see iron ore dump in, and we see nothing else because, oh, based on filtering, I have copper and aluminum going to that one. Had a bit of a panic attack there. We run over here to the Tinker's controller, and we can see the furnace, rather. Stuff's getting processed. Very cool, right? Note the lava. The lava is also being managed by Xnet. So earlier I had actually typed 66 iron, 32 copper, great spelling, and 220 aluminum. And if we look and we hover over it, we can see the iron ingot has 68. So that is, yes, +2. That should be 34 copper ingots, and then this should be 222 aluminum ingots. So it worked. That's just a catch-all. So the idea here with this setup is ores, process them right away, just double them. Anything else I will manage myself. So I'll just manually come here and say, hey, I want to make, probably a stack, but this demo, I'll just do 2 at a time, make plates. But the idea is that I can come here with a bunch of, resin or whatever to extract, just dump a pile in and it'll process. So it's half automated, half manual. What's kind of neat is I can go off and do other things, right? And when I come back here, go to this crate, and anything that's been processing over there gets dumped into here. And if it doesn't have a place to live, because notice how small my storage drawer system is here, if it doesn't have a place to live, it'll just live in there. But of course, numpad 5, I have the, what's this thing called? The Vice, the Voltopic item crafting entity. It can grab from anything in a 20 block radius. When I'm auto crafting, standing here in the middle, I can reach everything. It's a pretty nice, I don't know what you call it, like a workflow. What's also cool is if I pick this up, of course you can do merge, right? It'll merge it to probably in here somewhere. Yeah, I got tin in there, so it merges it over. And then of course you can just dump stuff in. So all this junk is here because it's not matching basically the 2 filters I have set up. It can't go into the drawer because all the drawers are locked and that item type doesn't exist in the drawer. And it can't go over to the macerators because I've only approved certain types of ores to go in. A good chunk of the video is me configuring stuff, but I kind of left it at the end where there was still an issue, and I worked out the problem off camera. So this is the good config. I always like my channel 8 to be my power. And RF, I think energy gets the yellow color, items get the green, and liquids get the blue. The battery at the top with the windmills, you can double click and see it. What Xnet's doing is it's extracting. So that's what you have to think about is from Xnet's perspective. Xnet is going to extract energy from that LV capacitor that I've also named the connector windmill source. Potentially I might have a water mill source later pushing in energy, because I don't think these 2 windmills are going to keep up. Anyways, this guy lives over there. That's what's powering the IC2 machines. And then I also have, this is important, the controller. So the actual screen I'm in right now is the controller. And if you notice, we're inputting RF. And the priority is 5 because of limited powering. I don't want all the power to get dumped over to the IC2 machines. So it's just left at the default priority of 0. But I want to make sure the control is always powered, because if the controller runs out of power, which you can see right here, 10,000 or 100,000, everything stops working. So priority 1 is keep this thing full of juice. I'll talk about this guy later when I'm setting up lava. But these item channels. So personally, I always find it helpful to look at the extracting first. So here's my connector that I've called Global Traveler. This crate up here, he's going to extract. It's a stack at a time. I think the default is single, but I prefer stack. And if I haven't mentioned it too, when you're working on stuff and setting up filters, it's very important to turn up the processing. Otherwise, stuff just starts happening. It pauses it, so nothing happens on that channel. Turn that back on because I want it on. Anyways, any crate, any item, doesn't matter. There's no filtering, nothing. Just stack, move it if you can. So it's going to try to push it into these 2 wooden storage crates, these macerator crates that I've named, or the drawer. And notice there's no filtering on the drawer. The drawer will accept anything because the filtering is actually on with the locks. So if I was to say, pick up a stack of this crystal, look at it, okay, I got 236. I dump it in here, it immediately gets moved, and then we are back up, plus the stack to 300. So potentially I'll make more drawers and fill everything up with items of value that have, many stacks. It's obvious to me now, though, that the storage drawers the storage drawer room is too small because, this vice unit can reach 20 blocks. So in hindsight, 2020, I should have built this bigger. Here's where the magic happens, though. Macerator. So this guy's set to take iron, gold, copper, and osmium. And this guy's set to take tin, lead, aluminum, nickel, cobalt, and ardite. So my thinking here is I'm not going to stick every type of ore in because a lot of the more advanced ores, this system will probably be obsolete by then. So this is just kind of like an early game setup, and I'm only going to try to process the stuff I care about. And then just notice the item IDs. So this guy, 5060/1, 5060/3, and 4. But this guy's got a different number, 8625/0 and then /1. So if I had metadata on, it would say it has to match this number exactly. When metadata is off, it actually just picks 8625. It doesn't look at the /0 or the /1. Same with these guys. Doesn't look at the /5, /4. So really, the only items I would need in here are, one of these ones and then one of these ones. But just for making things obvious to me, I've included all of them. And the reason you might want to get rid of some of them is if you were doing so many ores, you've only got this much limited room. I had actually tried making a filter module from RF Tools, sticking it in here, but it doesn't work. It actually filters the filter itself, not what's inside the filter, which is too bad. Following the flow here, these items are going to get processed. And then if we go back up to the top, every single one of these IC2 machines on a different channel, so these channels don't talk to each other. And this channel 2, this one's called 2 drawer. And then this guy's called 2 labeled crate. So these guys are going to export. And they're only inserting into one thing, and it is the labeled crate. Right there. And again, no filtering. So any output from these machines gets dumped into here, and I can easily access it without having to run across the road or the river, the lake. That's cool. That's fine. However, on this third channel, I've named it IO Smelt, so it just kind of stands for input output to smeltery. There's a reason to use these names in Xnet, and it's to do with the router. This router here, I think it lets you make multiple controllers talk to each other. But I'm not using it in that way. I'm just using it for myself to know, okay, this channel 3 is for the Tinker's furnace controller. That's the main purpose of this third channel. So all that crushed ore, all this stuff here, where I'm ore doubling, is going to go into this labeled crate. And then on a third channel, we're going to export it. And paying attention to the metadata again, most of the crushed ore is covered under the data 4159. I wish I knew what that was actually called. Calling it by the wrong thing. And then aluminum, 14940. Now, if we look for cobalt, I'm going to find later my system's going to break because notice that number up there is 14944, which doesn't match this or this. So disregarding this metadata thing, cobalt's not going to properly get handled. So I could fix that right now by clicking this. Let's look at crushed gold. So crushed gold is a good example, 4159/1. So this crushed copper ore will also handle gold properly, and also it'll handle iron properly too, because we saw it at the start of the episode. If this crushed stuff is in this crate, then export it to the Tinker's furnace. And there's no filter on this guy. If something has decided to send items, it will take it. So after everything's processed, pull it out. And so notice, back on channel 1, we're exporting. But here's a catch though. Is to export, we actually want a blacklist. Because when all this crushed ore gets put in, it would immediately get pulled out. So I've set up what I think are all the filters that I need. Notice osmium, nickel, ardite, and again, cobalt. Cobalt is missing, 14944, 14941. So I wish this part was, I'm going to blame the mod JAOPCA, whatever the heck that stands for, because it didn't group these items into a nice way. Because you'll see if I was to start handling nuclear, what's it called? Nuclear war? So the idea here is, of course, it's just an early game system. If you start handling so much ores that you're kind of into the later game, you wouldn't be using the system anyways. And it's so easy to get off on a tangent. But yeah, so this furnace now, anything that doesn't match crushed ore means it's still getting cooked. That also means, actually, I'm just realizing, if I was to use this furnace for something else, like let's say cooking logs, it would try to pull the logs out immediately and insert them into this storage drawer. And if I happen to have logs, which I don't, they would get put in. That's kind of the one issue with this system, is it's clunky. It works, especially early game when you've got limited options, but there's definitely a lot of fine tuning involved to making sure you don't accidentally do something. So yeah, if I was to put in, certain types of items, you would immediately try to pull them out and stick them back in the controller. Like sand. Sand's a good example. If I was trying to make glass, look at that number, 338. I might actually want to have another Tinker's Furnace set up somewhere that is not automated, because as soon as I put the sand in, it's going to yank it out. And then we see that it went back in. But that's a future problem. And then notice the storage drawer priority is set to 5. So anything this guy cooks, it's going to try to get jammed into here because the priority is 5. But it doesn't match. I guess it won't go back into these crates because there is a filter there. So there is protection that way, I guess, is if there is no room in the storage drawer network or there's no spot for something, it won't pull it out. If I look at, red sand and then vanilla sand, see how they're both 12, and then the metadata. If I stick this guy back in, it should fix this. And it's worth proving to myself that this actually works. So regular yellow sand is the one that's been blacklisted, but it's smart enough to know, hey, you're not matching the exact metadata. Look at those awesome graphics. Ha, glass. So the glass now is sitting in the Tinker's Furnace, which doesn't make a lot of sense to me. There should be a spot for it, right? And that spot might be right here. So I got 28 pieces, and it immediately jumps up to 28 plus a stack. Very cool. And time in the bottle does weird things. I'd be interested to know if there's a better way to handle the filtering than what I'm doing, but for right now, if I go down mining, it's going to handle stuff, and I can fine tune things and, sort out glitches as they come around. So I'll call this close enough to good enough. It's been about an hour since I set up this Xnet system here, maybe 2 hours, and I realized I haven't dealt with the lava yet. We make a tank. God, this inventory is just cluttered. Oh, that's what we don't want. Always good to look at your mini-map, right? Make sure there's no creeper faces around. We got water here, block of uranium, power in the thermal Jenny. That's your heat source, that's your cooling source. I guess I could throw a block of snow down. I never really thought about it. I don't have a way to manage ice yet. So this is a reward, right? You get all this stuff. I had to make that, but this stuff's a reward. So let's try not to drop it in the lava, which I'm concerned I'm going to do. That could have been dangerous. There. I had a quick look at this recipe. And this tank's much easier to use. Oh my goodness, level 100,000 millibuckets. That's a lot of buckets, jeez. So yeah, the goal is to swap these lava sources back and forth, right? What would be kind of cool, maybe, is realizing I'd like to see this cable, or this tank rather, a little higher. There's a problem. Okay, so let's get rid of everything except for the upwards connection. And like an absolute crazy person, I'm going to leave my useful cabinet behind this portable tank, so it's really awkward to reach. This way, when I'm in here doing stuff, doing the crafts, right, I can say, hey, my lava is getting low to my furnaces. The placement of this elevator will never get old. Lava time. Okay, so this guy was named Seared Smeltery, Seared Furnace. They're both set to insert, which is okay. I don't care about priorities, but this guy's going to be an extract, and I want to filter that too. So like I said before, I believe you could throw in all types of fluids you want, and they'll all get handled on the same channel, and you just filter the inputs and the outputs to make sure there's no mistakes. Later, I'll have water running through here and possibly various other things. It's pretty slick. We can get rid of the filter. And that's also another benefit of copying and pasting, right? Because if you just do like a copy and then a paste, there's your filter. Okay, so we can see the lava is at 97,000. Nice even number. This guy's full. And this guy's full. All I have to do is quickly use the open blocks elevator. I guess the white one here. Whip down here. Grab a refill. Whip back up. Eventually I'll make 2 of these because the... What's this thing called? The Ender IO tank only holds 16,000 buckets, where this apparently is 100,000. Which is insane. It's definitely been boosted, I think. What they call a quality of life change right there. I think it's time to get started with some Xnet and IC2. Oh yeah, some of those connectors were placed, so now they don't stack. A tip too for JEI, if you are looking to work with, let's say, Xnet like I am, you want to get rid of another mod, you can do something like that. Because the X networks was matching this guy. Maybe going to take me a little minute here to work out how I want this to look. I'm imagining for the early game, 3 types of metal former. I don't know, do I need cutting? Well, some of these recipes certainly are useful. Gold to 4, tin to 3. Plates will be useful, especially for these type of plates, and there's a lot of recipes. But then this guy, oh, this is for processing plates. You know, these guys aren't necessary at all, are they? I don't know, is it worth having 2 extractors going? I'm gonna have to get my charging ability up right away. I don't know in this pack if you need to use this tool. I know the OG version, you could just use a pickaxe, but they may have made this more difficult. Macerators. I'm probably going to want quite a few macerators, like probably even 3 or 4. Compressors, might want a couple of those. Generator might not get used right away. Electric furnace. Guess I can put you here now. Save on inventory. I can't really imagine myself using the electric furnace much. The Tinker's Smeltery is so much better. Alright, here's the basic layout so far of the machines that I have. Originally, I was going to actually stick Xnet in the wall, these cables, and then it's really cheap to make facades. Or I believe it's really cheap. Oh yeah, you get 16. So they're nice to work with, but you're kind of wasting early on these connectors. remembering the cost is kind of extensive. What I'm imagining here, right, is I'm going to put items in for processing, and then I'm going to make pulling upgrades so the items will get pulled into whatever machine. And then some machines like these macerators, I'm probably going to have Xnet delivering items, early game at least, to these crates. But something like a metal former, I'll probably just drop a couple stacks or whatever in. And once it gets processed, I'm going to have Xnet pull the items back and dump them into the what do I call that area? The crafting area. And I don't want it just dumping into crates, right? Like, let's say I make a bunch of lead or copper plates or iron plates. They're probably going to have their own storage drawer. What I also wanted to do was kind of improve this lava. Maybe I should take a step back here and explain this Xnet a little bit. So these connectors, the basic connectors, and then there's different colors. I've never bothered to use them, but I think the idea is they stay separate. At some point, it's worth upgrading them to the advanced connector. They move more RF. I think they say right there, they allow access to machine sides, different sides. What that means is the basic connector can only access this side of the machine. You know how some machines are sided, like a vanilla furnace, for instance? You could actually make this connector talk to the top part of it. But for these IC2 machines, it's not necessary. And then later, if you ever wanted to upgrade these basic connectors, you don't have to break them. You can just click this kit. And it's basically the same cost, except it has a piece of paper. The real magic is the cables. I'll connect all these cables together, and everything will be talking. I don't know why. It's been a couple days now, and my skin is still dead. I think I've reset my game. I've kind of Googled, or I've checked my account to make sure it wasn't hacked or something, but my skin's still there. So I don't know why I have this weird skin. What I could do, I could bring the Xnet cable up this corner, because these storage drawers are at least talking in all four corners. So I don't need one of these corners. I'm going to resist the urge to use vein miner here. Maybe I should make a temporary waypoint. Xnet cable. Something easy to see, like green. Now, can you pillar up? I was a little worried you wouldn't be able to noob pillar. Because they're not really a full block, are they? And remember, torch everything up. Maybe push F7 on occasion, because we have creepers spawning in here and we walk in and this place explodes. There's no protection. Flaming chunks in this pack. It just goes boom. Then you rage quit. I don't know how robust the filtering is. I kind of have to play with it and remind myself. But what I'm imagining is this crate that I'm looking at here is kind of the crate that gets, or it's not kind of, it is the crate that gets, that's configured with my global traveler on this pickaxe. So anything I mine with this pickaxe gets sent to this crate. And it would be interesting to have Xnet pulling out of it, and if it's got space in the drawer controllers to shove the items in, and if it is a certain type of ore, let's say these types, automatically send them to the macerators. That's kind of the end goal here. Here's my drawer key. So I'm sure anybody watching this series knows about storage drawers, but you right-click the drawer controller, it will lock or unlock everything at once. Scratch that. It can't. Oh, that's a good test, because from this drawer controller, it stops talking. Oh, stops talking because it's broken right here. Well, that's fine. This stuff I don't think needs to be here. Let's try it again. So everything is unlocked. Great. And then everything's locked. I'll just place it at this height. Kind of exciting. This is the first real infrastructure getting laid in a soon to be very critical laggy world. Walk by the room, hit numpad 5, and then Xnet. Nice. Okay, here's a good example. So this connector here, we could actually name this, I don't have to name it Tinkers, because I'm actually going to see that at the controller. I could just name it the Seared Furnace. It's time to break out the shovel. Oh no. I gotta kill that rat. Forgot I put the cheese trait on the spoon. If he's not a friend, is he just gonna leave? Oh no. You sir have to die. I don't know how rats works. I'm very concerned about leaving him. They only spawn on trash or from this shovel I've made. Cool. I'm sure I'm going to want to pick that stuff up, but not today, I don't. I'll regret it in the future. There we go. Cables. Clearly, it would be smart to build more Xnet machines down here. I feel like in a modded base, to be like properly aesthetic, you have to have nice builds and like showcase some stuff, but then there's other areas where you just have to pile machines, especially in expert packs. You just pile machines in the dark basement and ignore them. Unlike this room. Slap a temporary connector there. Throw this controller down. Find my LV connector. And I'm sure I'll walk into this and get electrocuted. It's okay. Probably turn off this waypoint. Remove. And I'll turn this one actually off. I'll keep it, but I'd like to know where my elevator is. My blue one. This guy's got power now. Now that thing's got power, it can actually do something. And what I've typically always done, and I'm going to continue to do, is how do I articulate this? If you don't know anything about Xnet, I would probably recommend looking at a tutorial. This is what I like to do. I like to set channel 8 for my energy, and I like to set channel 7 for my fluids. And I'm not going to actually do this now because I think once I move this controller, I think everything has to get redone. I can't remember. Yeah, we'll leave that for now. Let's do this. Okay, so this guy is actually going to... I'll have to maybe cut that. That experiment failed epically. New plan. Take that connector back. The new plan's an actual absolute brainwave here. Okay, new plan. Slap capacitor on here, and then shift right click once to turn it to input mode. I think I only need a little bit of juice. I just need enough juice to get this sticky stuff processed. Cool. Please have enough juice. What if it didn't? That'd be wild. I don't really know the exchange rates, like how many RF. I guess in this case it's IF. Cool, it worked. Let's make a relay. Boom. Okay, this inventory is starting to get a little bit obnoxious. LV, there. This block cutting could probably go on the block cutter. The blade. That's weird. Wait, what? Or if somebody can explain this to me. Wire length 12 blocks. I am pretty sure that when I made these tin wires, yeah, they cost 9 of these IC2 cables, and you get a wire length of 9. So how did this one glitch to 1,000? And that one's at 12. I feel like I've bugged something out. Everything's fully charged. No more juice is getting sucked out of there. All we have to do now is fix the... Talk about some cursed wiring. Okay. Well, let's have that do that for a hot minute. I'll try to fix this side over here. Okay, so this is actually cool. Because this is all one network, all the same node, it has a memory. It lost the controller config because it actually moved, but it remembers this block space, that this capacitor was there and it was set to that. So you can also double click to highlight and it actually tells you which block it is, which is also nice. Or like I showed earlier, if you name something, seared furnace, seared smelter, it actually gives it a proper name. Okay, so for the controller, first thing to set up is the insertion, and I'm just going to give it a priority of 5. So he's always getting juice first. Okay, so at least if I do this, then when I decide to put other machines up here, the infrastructure is kind of already set. Okay, so if we tap once, that's going to be input, but we want to output to the network. And then we can set this guy to input. Cool. And I'm actually going to give this guy a name, right? It just makes sense that this could be a windmill source, for lack of a better name. I guess I could have called it power in, but maybe I'll have other power sources in the future. This thing must have been fully charged and it kept its power level because that power upstairs is not actually getting fed into here. We can tell because it's going down. So here's our windmill source. See how it's got a nice little name. I suppose you could tell by the block height it's the tallest one, but so what we're going to do here to this guy is we're actually going to extract out of him. And priority is going to be 5 to the controller, and then anything else will go to this dude. And if we look back up, it's fully charged and not falling. That's pretty cool, right? So that means anywhere I can tap into Xnet, I've got RF power up until the point where I reach bottlenecks and everything stops working. I'll just slap that there just so I can charge my tool. So nice, it keeps its power level. I need to make a bunch more wire connectors. I would love to know what happened to this thing. If I duped it or... Probably should throw it away, but... And that's why there's vines. Just to help me climb that little bit. Look at that. 3 sticky resins. Pull out the... I'm in a bottle of justice. So everything's got power now. The main things I need now are pulling upgrades to pull. At IC2 upgrade. This is where we find out they're ungodly expensive. Ejector pulling. There's no recipe for that. Okay, here we go. So 4 tin for 1, or first order of business, metal former. You are now going to be Mr. Plate. Mr. Plate Maker. And then these compressors. What does a compressor look like? You know what? It would have made a lot more sense to put a block of tin actually in the block cutter. But here we are. How can we steal all the power? I see the machine tapped out, but everything else seemed okay. I guess we're making a pulling upgrade. Nice. I think with this whole partial stack, I can do... Is it automatically input from the top? No, we want to do automatically input from the bottom. So this is where I'm going to load stuff. I'll pop one of you guys in there. That's impressively fast, I would say. Guess that bat box doesn't need one for now. Whoops, wrong thing. Cool. This box, goodies, might as well just hold that. If I put that in there, I'll be looking for it. Oh no, what happened to my sticks? Why are they just these garbage sticks now? They have a lifespan? What did I do? Why did one get broken forever? This is where we double and triple check that everything is locked. This is the special crate. Oh lord, am I going to be able to reach? So I'll call this guy the Global Traveler, for lack of a better name. So what then I'd like to do here is Xnet items. And what's cool too, if you didn't know, if you had a channel here, you can do Control-C and paste it there. Fun fact, you can't actually do that. That's a false memory. I think priority should be this drawer network. What we should do is create an insert and create the priority as 5. And 5 is just a nice whole number. Also, this is a perfect example of why you might want to disable processing, because if items start all of a sudden moving on you, like let's say you didn't have these drawers locked, you could have left this off, so nothing's happening on this channel while it's off. But I'll leave it on. So if we look back in this chest, we can see a couple items disappeared because there was a place to stick them. I'm just trying to think. So for all these items, I want them to extract, right? But then I want them to go into here. But if they can't go into here, they kind of have to go somewhere else. But for now, I guess that doesn't really matter. So let's just paste it all in. Control V a bunch of times. Okay, new plan. So this Global Traveler crate is going to try to dump items into the drawer network if it can. And if they're matching certain ore types, they'll go in there for processing automatically. However, I don't want to confuse things by also having the machines taking their outputs out, because not every type of item I make out of a machine is going to have room in my storage drawers, because I've made this room too small. So I'm going to have a second channel that's handling items to another inventory. And that inventory should be just a bunch of massive storage crates like that. I think what I might do for the time being Just do that. Because there's decent room in these engineer decor crates. You can give them a nice little label too. And a label would make sense. A torch? Sure, why not? Gotta give it something. I don't know if I included this already, or maybe I'm going to cut the footage, but if you're holding an Xnet piece and you hold shift, it actually lets you see your infrastructure here. So that's pretty cool for tapping into things and seeing exactly where this whole grid is. All right, note to self. Include this at the end of the video. But these are the configs that I've kind of left it as. When the earlier footage of me building this thing, it was kind of left in a janky state. So first part of my video, I'll try to include a chapter. It's going to have me kind of explaining these more thoroughly because I made a few mistakes when I was assembling it. Mainly just to do with filtering and blacklisting when it shouldn't have been, or trying to do metadata matching when it wasn't necessary. It's a let's play. Come on.